Okay, class, let's go over the answers to this test review. Okay, because I know we didn't have a chance to work on it in class too much, so I wanted to go over the answers with you, just to go over a few things. So the first section deals with just integers, just deals with integer operations. We know with integers that if we have an addition problem, we like those kind of problems. And we say if our signs are alike, you add your numbers together, keep the sign of the problem. If your signs are different, you subtract your numbers and take the sign of the number farthest from 0. So in this first problem, we've got negative 11 plus 22. Our signs are different, so we subtract our numbers. 22 take away 11 is 11. The 22 is farthest away from 0, so it's a positive 11. Number 2, same thing. 34 plus negative 13. Our signs are different, so we subtract our numbers. We do 34 take away 13, and you end up with 21 is your answer. And it'll be a positive 21 because the 34 was farthest away from 0. Now, if you have a subtraction problem, we know that for subtraction, we're going to LCO it if we have integers involved. So this problem right here will end up being a negative 8. We change this minus to a plus. The 21 is negative now, so I change it to a positive. So it's negative 8 plus 21 is what the problem that we need to do. So now we go back to our addition rules. Our signs are different, so we subtract, and we end up with 13. Number 4, dealing with multiplication. We know with multiply and divide that we multiply or divide first, and then we count the negatives. So in this one right here, we're going to do 7 times 8, which is 56. And then I'm going to count my negatives. I have one negative, so my answer is negative. Number 5, another subtraction problem. So this one, remember we LCO. So we leave the 20 alone. We change subtraction to addition. The 31 we change to a positive 31. We change it to its opposite. Now we have 20 plus 31, which gives us 51. Now back to multiply. Again, we multiply first. 12 times 4 is 48. We have one negative, so my answer is negative. Number 7. It's a division problem. So we divide first. 28 divided by 7 gives us 4. We count our negative signs. 2 negatives make it a positive 4. And you don't have to put the plus sign for positive, but you can. Number 8, 45 divided by 9 is 5. We have one negative, so my answer is negative 5. Now on number 9 and 10, what we're doing is we're having to do a string of things. Okay, so in this number 9, we're doing several additions in a row. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to go and focus on any subtraction that I see. So here's a plus, it's good, leave it alone. Here's a plus, leave it alone, it's good. Here's a subtraction, so we need to change that. So this will end up being 8 plus positive 8, because I changed subtraction to addition next to its opposite. Now I can come through and put the 21, the 8, and the 8 together. So that's really 21 plus 16, because 8 and 8 make 16, which gives us 37. So now we have 37 plus negative 15. So our signs are different, so we subtract, and we end up with 22. And it's a positive 22 because the 37 is farthest away from 0. Number 10, same thing. We focus on subtraction. So we got 32, and then we got a minus. And we'll change this minus to a plus, the 10 to a positive. Then I got another minus. So I'm going to change this minus to a plus, and the 14 to a negative 14. So now I can put all my positives together. So that's 32 and 10. So that's 42. And I've got plus negative 14. So my signs are different here, so I subtract, and I end up with 28. And it's positive because the 42 has more. So that's the first section on the test. Okay, it's the same kind of thing that we just did here, just practicing your integer rules. Okay. Then we go to mixed numbers. In addition and subtraction, we know we got to find common denominators. So in this one, I rewrite my problem so I can find common denominators. I've got a 5 and a 4, so my common denominator is going to be 20. Now, how did I go from 5 to 20? I multiplied by 4, so I do the same to the 3. 3 times 4 gives me 12. 4 times 5 gives me 20, so 1 times 5 gives me 5. Okay, now we add our numerators. 12 and 5 make 17. We keep our denominator of 20, and then we add our whole parts. 4 and 2 make 6. And last question is, can I simplify this? No. So I put a big circle around it or box it to show that this is my final answer. For subtraction, we do the same thing. We find common denominators. So I rewrite my fraction so that I can find common denominators. I start with my 14. 14 times 1 is 14. Can I turn the 7 into a 14? Yes. So the 14 is my common denominator. Okay. So this one here, I didn't do anything, so I leave my numerator alone. The second one, I went from 7 to 14 by multiplying by 2. So I do the same thing to the top. 3 times 2 gives me 6. And now we subtract. 9 take away 6 gives me 3. Keep my denominator of 14. Then I do 9 minus 3, which is 6. And we ask, can I simplify 6 and 3/14? No. So I put a circle or box it to signify that's my final answer. Now for multiply and divide, we know we have to get fractions. So 2 and a fourth turns into, so we use our popcorn method. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9, over 4, times 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5, over 3. Now at this point, you got two things that you can do. You can multiply straight across, because the rule says to multiply fractions, I know I got them. It's top times top, bottom times bottom. Okay? Or you can try to simplify anything that's in the problem. Any top number with any bottom number that has a common factor. Okay, so I see the 9 and the 3. They do have a common factor of 3. So I can divide the 9 by 3 and get 3. Divide the 3 by 3 and get 1. So now when I multiply across, I've got 3 times 5, which is 15. 4 times 1, which is 4. And now we have to simplify. How many times will 4 go into 15? Well, it goes 3 times. 4 is 12. We take the 12 out of the 15. We're left with 3. And you put the 4 back on the bottom. So 3 and 3/4 is my final answer. For division, we have to start off the same way by getting fractions. But we know our division rule says to divide fractions, don't ask why, flip the second and multiply. So we change this first one into a fraction by doing 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16 over 3. The second one is 4 times 3 is 12, plus 3 is 15. Okay, now I can immediately go ahead and put that on the bottom, and the 4 that I would put on the bottom, put it on the top, and then turn it to multiply. Right? Now you can only simplify when you're multiplying. Right? Now we look at this one. Don't be tempted to simplify the 3 and the 15 or the 16 and the 4. Okay, each of those are on the same level, top and top or bottom and bottom. You can only simplify a top with a bottom. So in this particular problem, you have no choice but to just multiply across. So 16 times 4 will give me 64. Okay, and then 3 times 15 gives me 45. Now we top in, bottom out. We divide for simplifying. How many 45s in 64? 1. Okay, you take out the 45 out of the 64 and you get 19. Oh, excuse me, not 16. I don't know where that came from. You get 19 over 45. And you can't simplify anymore. So that's the second section of the test, dealing with just fractions and mixed numbers. Now we have some word problems. Number 12, okay, it says on Thursday, the low temperature in Fairbanks, Alaska was minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit. The high temperature was 19 degrees Fahrenheit. How much warmer was the high temperature than the low temperature? Okay, so we take the high temperature of 19. We're comparing these, how much warmer is, so that is a subtraction problem. Anytime you're comparing things, that is subtraction. So 19 minus the low temperature of 15. Okay. So again, this is a subtraction problem with integers. Okay, so we need to change subtraction to addition, next number to its opposite, and then go back to our addition rules. Our signs are now alike, so we add that together. 19 and 15 make 34, and then it's degrees Fahrenheit. That's my final answer. Don't forget to put your labels when you're dealing with word problems. Okay, number 13. Par on a 9-hole golf course is 35. Par means that's the number that you start with. Okay? Then it says Sam was 2 under par for the first 5 holes. Well, the 2 under par, we recognize that as being an integer. So that we write that as plus -2. Okay? Was 5 over par on the next 2 holes. Well, over par is a word that represents positive. So that's a plus 5. And then 3 under par for the last 2 holes. So that again is plus -3. What was Sam's score? If you add all this together, you get Sam's score. So we take our positive numbers, 35 and 5 make 40. We take our negative numbers, put those together, and then we do one subtraction problem. Our signs are different, so we subtract and we get 35. So that means he actually shot par. Okay, now on this one right here, to actually, the label on this one, 35 is the score. So what are these? These are actually strokes. So we would write 35 strokes. But this one, since it's a golf one, I'm not going to be real picky on the label on that particular one. Okay, on number 14. A certain business made a profit of $500 one week. The next week it lost 4 times as much as it gained the week before. What were its losses that week? Well, 4 times as much is 4 times as 500. So that's going to be 500 times 4, which gives you $2,000. Now, since it says what were its losses, this $2,000 is really a negative $2,000. Number 15. Bill and Mary Tucker's new car cost $27,350. After 4 years, the car will have changed in value, or will have a change in value of negative $3,500. What will be the average change in value for the car each year? Well, average refers to division. Okay, so we're going to take the amount of change that we had, which is negative $3,500, and we're going to divide it by the number of years we want to divide it by, which is 4. So we're going to divide 3,500 by 4. Okay, so 4 goes into 3. It doesn't. 4 goes into 35 8 times. You get 32. We subtract. You get 3. Bring down your 0. 4 goes into 30. How many times does it go into 30? It goes 7 times with 28. You subtract. You get 2. Bring down your 0. And then 4 goes into 20 5 times. Multiply and subtract. You get 0. So they had an average change of negative $875. So that will be the answer to question 15. 2 more to go. Number 16. Patrick shoveled snow in his neighborhood. In 4.5 hours, he shoveled for 6 neighbors. If each job took the same time, how long did each job take? Well, in this one right here, we're taking these jobs, this amount of time, and we're dividing it among 6 neighbors. So this is really 4 1/2 divided by 6. We don't want to divide 6 neighbors by 4.5 hours because we don't want to chop up neighbors. That's kind of illegal. Okay, so we're going to, in order to divide this, I got to have fractions. So 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9 halves, times, because to divide fractions, don't ask why, flip the second and multiply. So the 6, to turn it into a fraction, becomes 6 over 1. So I flip it to 1 over 6, and then I multiply. So I notice that the 9 and the 6 share a common factor of 3. So this 9 turns into a 3. This 6 turns into a 2. So when I multiply, I end up with 3 over 4. So how long did each job take? 3/4 of an hour, or 45 minutes. Number 17, at a bookstore, 14 books are placed side by side on a shelf. Each book is 1 1/4 inches wide. What is the total width of the 14 books? So this is 14 books, each one 1 1/4 inches wide, and I want to find the total length. So this is a multiply problem. Okay, so to multiply, we turn the 14 into a fraction, 14 over 1. We turn the 1 1/4 into a fraction. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5 over 4, and then we multiply. Well, I notice that the 14 and the 4, they have a 2 in common. So I can divide them by 2. So this turns into a 7. The 4 turns into a 2. Now when I multiply across, I get 35 over 2. And then we simplify that. How many times does 2 go into 35? Well, it actually goes, if you do the division, 35 divided by 2. 2 goes into 3 one time. We subtract, we get 1. 15. 2 goes into 15 7 times, 14. You get 1 left over, and then you take the 17, you put the 1 on top and the 2 on bottom, and it's 17.5 inches for the answer. Okay, so that's how you work each question on that test. So I hope this helps.